What's going on, guys? Rashad Lamar here. I'm excited for today. It's going to be a special day for me. My first game review. I'm looking forward to it. I've never done a game review on camera before. So it's going to be a new thing for me. It's going to be Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2. I never played the first one, but I was excited. Well, sorry, I did play the first one, but I didn't finish it. I'm excited to go ahead and give you a review this time. One of the reasons I played is because I was a little upset with myself for not finishing the first one, but I was excited for the second one, so I just went ahead and played it. I wanted to play them in order, but didn't pan out that way, so excited to just go ahead and jump into this one. Let's get it. Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2 starts out pretty standard. It's really like this kind of retro style game. Old school controls, even old school title screen and sound effects. The first thing they do is kind of insult you with this title screen here. Casual. Infinite lives and no knockback occurs when taking damage in this beginner-friendly style. Players are not penalized in any way, so choose this style if you're a beginner or want to take it easy. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is change this from infinite lives and no knockback to the regular veteran difficulty, where characters get knocked back when taking damage and lives are limited in this retro style, recommended for those who want a fair challenge. Let's get it. I'm looking forward to a fair challenge. Alright, so you start off as the main character, Zangetsu, but there's also 4 additional characters. Gameplay is pretty standard, except for pretty clunky controls, since it's supposed to be like this old school style game, and the controls can definitely get in the way of really kind of breaking and having a lot of fun with the game. It can even cause quite a bit of frustration. If you see this part here, this was just ridiculous. Like, look at like the enemies coming down on the screen at this absurd pattern and the stage literally falling away. It's just pretty ridiculous. In order to get past some of these more difficult segments, you have to develop a particular strategy. If you don't have a perfect strategy and utilize everything possible to your advantage, then you will get totally annihilated in this game. That is no joke. Seriously, like, even if you look at me on this particular part, I'm just trying to figure out the best possible timing, because if you go in guns a-blazing without knowing the exact timing and exactly what to do, then you will fall, for sure. And if you think that this is tough, just you wait until you see additional clips or play the game yourself, because this part, I believe, is actually pretty early in the game. I believe like level 3 or 4 or something. But the game gets totally brutal, just absurd. Have you fighting these totally ugly ass enemies, ugly as sin, giving you this crazy, ridiculous time. Like, I remember the part that you're watching right now, I was freaking getting pissed and livid. At one point, I thought that this level was so difficult, I thought it might be the last level in the game. At some point, I came to a realization that it wasn't quite like too tough to be the last level in the game, or I felt like maybe that would be a bit too short for the game. There are 8 levels in a single normal playthrough, and God, like, I'm getting destroyed on this level. It took me forever to get past this part, and you have to be able to get past some of these portions multiple times in order to be successful here. On the staircases you can get hit off of, which can be really annoying. Here's another ridiculous segment, like where you have to do this crazy platforming with the clunky controls, and I get that it's supposed to be like that on purpose, but they do allow you to cheat by using the robot character. I forget his name. It's basically like a dog controlling a robot, which is hilarious. They have this cool stage selection. I really like the style of it. It really does kind of remind me of the old Castlevania styles. I like the graphics, the animation. You can see the backdrop is really nice. So they definitely did not appear to cut corners, at least not to me. I have not watched any other reviews or anything. I have no idea what anyone else's opinion is on this. At first, I only thought it was okay, but as I continue to play, I liked playing as the other characters. And again, not having the experience from the first Curse of the Moon game, I actually enjoyed this quite a bit. So let's talk about the bosses for a minute. So the bosses in this game are pretty freaking tough. Definitely more so, I would say, than the old games, but in all fairness, you can save in this game. So after you beat a level, you don't kind of get kicked back to the very beginning of the game or anything too ridiculously brutal. But they're animated extremely well. The kind of patterns that they have can be pretty cool and interesting to fight. I love the little startup animations. All the bosses in the game have a nice startup animation to them, or a little cinematic, I should say. Some of them can be extremely challenging. I thought toward the beginning that they were pretty tough, but gosh, they get freaking absurd as you get closer to the end. Here's another amazing startup animation for a boss. Really awesome stuff. Spikes on the ceiling, freaking crazy water effects. There's ice physics. Yes, ice physics. For anybody who's ever experienced ice physics, you know what time it is. Sometimes you can even get your ass handed to you by the boss, and what will happen is their health will recover partially. So if you have enough lives, you can kind of come back and finish them off, but the problem is your health does not recover, so you can just totally get your ass handed to you when you come back to them after their health, the boss's health recovers. Now look at this boss. There's so much shit on the screen. Just look at this. So many different things flying around. It's just so much movement on the screen. I had to cheese the boss in order to beat it. I lost to this boss probably about a dozen times. And I had to pick the robot character who can do this slight hover ability, and that allowed me to kind of cheese the boss. Instead of having to wait and climb on top of all the pillars, I just simply cheesed it and kept doing his little hover ability. But that may not be an option going forward, and we'll talk more about that later. Eventually, you do get further along, and this is like one of the last levels of the game. So spoiler alert, there are spoilers in this review. In case I forget to say it at another point in the video, there are spoilers in this review, including the final boss and ending, guys, okay? So please do not continue watching if you don't want to see. Here is the final boss of the game. It has an easy enough pattern, at least in this phase. So yes, there are phases as well, as you can see here. So I actually figured out a trick. You can totally cheese this boss if you go behind it. So all you got to do is kind of walk behind the boss, and then you can kind of cheese it from there. The final boss in this game hits you like a ton of bricks. So I got my butt handed to me a bunch of times, but as you can see, the animation for this ugly ass creature that pops up, it's like some sort of insect enemy. With a bunch of human looking hands, as you can see, really ugly and crazy looking. There is a pattern that is pretty easy to decipher. It does kind of throw in the occasional mix up on you that can totally get you destroyed. Some of these moves though, I'm not totally convinced that they're even dodgeable. Like if you look at how many different attacks it has, eventually I figured out if you know the perfect strategy with all the characters and different times that you can attack, then you can kind of cheese certain moments of the boss battle. However, there are certain times when it's also, it appears as though there's no way to escape certain moves that the boss has. So you essentially would need extra health in order to tank certain moves. So if you can do that, then good on you. You just have to get to the boss early enough with enough health in order to eventually kind of wreck it, as you can see here, which I finally managed to accomplish. So eventually you get to the ending, and this happens. So apparently the bug creature gets totally destroyed by the darkness, which is not revealed exactly what the darkness is, but your character Dominic throws herself in front of the darkness and gets taken over by it. Big shocker, everybody gets blown away, including me. I'm like, yo, what the hell just happened? So apparently Dominic is now captured by the darkness, and you get sent back to the beginning of the game, and you're told to go through it again, and they call it Chapter 2. In Chapter 2, you essentially play through without Dominic. There's additional enemies, new enemy placements, changes to the bosses, and I'm thinking even additional bosses. However, I've only played part of it. Alright, so here's a comparison. This is the first boss in episode 1, Just ran into that blast like an idiot. This is the first boss in episode 2. It leaves a trail of fire this time. And you don't have Dominic, and it has new attacks. Holy shit! What's going on? The first time you fight this boss, Dominique stops the boss from doing one of its most powerful attacks, as you can see here with this awesome freaking animation. But since she's not around in the second episode, then you're just kind of forced to take it all. So that really opens up a lot of possibilities in terms of replay value for all the levels and stages, because you don't have that character anymore, and there's new elements introduced. So that makes it just more challenging outright. So overall, I'd say that I really like the game. I'm actually pretty impressed by the way that they did the old school style graphics, along with having all the strobing elements and just the way everything's animated looks pretty good. There's some really unique enemies, really interesting challenges, unique abilities for all the characters, which definitely makes things fun, even though some of the characters definitely appear more useful than others. They all have their useful moments. So there's no, at least for me, no one particular character that just kind of dwarfs all the rest. The music in the game, I would probably say, in my opinion, is probably the weakest thing about the game. Is there's really no music in the game that you're going to hear and really remember. The only thing that I really remember the sound of is like when you beat a boss, like the like that sort of sound. So I remember how that sounds because it's a really high intensity moment. You just kind of feel good about being able to finally defeat those bosses. The bosses I would give probably like a 9 or 10 out of 10, because I think that they're pretty great, even though some of them were just annoying as crap. Story, there pretty much is no story, at least not as far as I'm concerned in the first playthrough, maybe if you complete all the episodes. Overall, I'd say that the game is pretty solid. Could be more fun. There's sometimes I didn't feel like I was having like the most fun, as opposed to just wanting to kind of complete the game and have it be over with. But I actually did definitely enjoy the experience overall. If I had to give it a rating, I feel like I'm a pretty tough critic sometimes. I'd probably give it like about a 7. It's a $15 game, so you're not really missing out on a whole lot of cash trying to get the game. But overall, I think it's great. It's nice. It's a challenging game. Pretty decent in every category that it aims to be decent in. I want to see next time better soundtrack, but I think that's about it for now. All right, everybody, that's my review for Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2. Hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. Hope to catch y'all next time. Shalimar out.